2024 draft is in the rearview mirror. We have landing spots. Welcome to Club Fantasy FFL. Welcome to Mocking with the Stars. Oh, yes, baby. Yes. NFL draft is in the rearview mirror. We finally got the landing spots. Welcome to Mocking with the Stars. My guy, Chris Batistell at FF Chris B is in the house. Of course, you can hit me up at Fantasy J over there on Twitter. Before I get to you, Chris, wow, we have a star of the night right here coming in from South Harmon, one of the co-founders over there at South Harmon. You can find him on Twitter at Iowa Michael. I'm sorry. It is Iowa Michael, right? On Twitter? It is.
You got it.
Mr. Iowa Mike himself. Brother, how are you doing?
I'm doing good other than the star part, man. I'm just a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. That's all I am, man. Just nobody.
I think I've heard Adam say that about you. I think I've heard Adam say that exact thing. You're just a dude disguised as a dude playing another dude.
Pretty much, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Chris is having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we will start off with just you and I tonight. Quick question before we get into the draft here. What is your best advice for fantasy football players going into their rookie drafts in these dynasty rookie drafts?
Enjoy it. We've been kind of plagued with shallow classes over the last couple of years. Bad quarterback classes, your only options, Kenny Pickett. Woof, how'd that one turn out? Enjoy this one. Enjoy it. It feels like forever since we had one this good. You're going to find out even when we dive in it tonight, third round, still good players there. Like players you're excited to push the button on and pick. And a lot of other classes, it just felt like sometimes you get to that mid-second, you're just like, I'm good. Could somebody take these? I don't want to make the pick, so have fun. Enjoy this one. It's, at least in my time with fantasy football and Dynasty, one of the best classes I think I've ever seen, top to bottom.
I think that's one of the things this year that I've noticed is even late first, middle of the second, going into the third, there are still players you're like, and conflicted about because you're like, oh, shit, the landing spot compared 100%. To the opportunity. I mean, I am right there with you. Do you have any specific strategies when you go into a rookie draft, or are you just BPA?
Usually just BPA, but I found myself here today with a few that have kicked off, kind of taking a survey, especially Superflex leagues. That's all I play in. No offense to the one QB people out there. I know you got your little niche. Not for me, though. I like to play with multiple quarterbacks. And quarterback hoarders are people, too. As you can see the tagline down there. I found myself today multiple times kind of taking a survey of the land, and this is such a deep quarterback class. Some people are in quarterback hell, purgatory. I found myself reaching, quote unquote, reaching on a few of these quarterbacks just to stick it to them. Daddy Mike's open for business. Come see me when you want a quarterback.
Daddy Mike open for business. Checking in right here. We got Chasing Ships checking in. Drew checking in with us. Chasing Ships got a question for you since you just brought this up. 12-team Superflex got 101, 104, 108, and 112. Should I take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 101 and then best available quarterback at 104, probably being Maye or JJ? And then he says, currently he only has Brock Purdy at quarterback. He earned the 101.
I'm a big quarterback fan. Marvin Harrison is fantastic, and I'll never knock anybody who wanted to take him at 1 or 2. If he falls to 3, great for you. I'm just so on board. And Adam and I disagree about this all the time. We do. And specifically with this class. But I am always of hit rates tell you that quarterbacks are better bets. Long-term dynasty value tell you quarterbacks are better bets in Superflex. So I just go with that. You're going to have some misses, but of course you also have misses at wide receiver. Now, I'm not saying Marvin Harrison is close to that, but, once upon a time, Corey Davis went 5th overall. That didn't work out so well for you. And if you want to go way back in the time machine, there's a long list of top 10, top 7 NFL drafted wide receivers you never heard of. You never heard of for good reason, because they were terrible.
That is very, very true. Well, Chris, welcome back. You sound going good now. You good to go?
Yes, loud and clear. This is why you don't come in late, so you can get your audios and your visuals all sorted out. Of course, my main set of headphones crapped out. I mean, I lost complete audio for both of you guys, which is no good, but all good to go now, man. I'm here ready to rock.
Okay, Chris, make sure you timestamp what time you explained on what time to be here, please. That way we can make a
we'll do in the future.
Drew is in the building. Andrea is in the building. Mr. Scamper's in the house. And then Andrea's throwing this up 12-team Superflex 102 and 107. Should I go quarterback or wide receiver first? I honestly, I think, Mike, you just answered that one. So I'll send it to Chris real quick for this one.
Yeah, go quarterback. Build through the quarterback. It's the hardest position to build through. You're going to get wide receivers and running backs year in and year out in these drafts. In the second round and third rounds, you're going to find the values with running backs and wide receivers. Grab the quarterbacks while you can, especially in Superflex leagues.
Mike, in that position there, you're sitting there probably looking at, if you're going to go quarterback, it's probably going to be Jaden Daniels, unless somebody's going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. like I did in my 101 position today. But more than likely, it's going to be Jaden Daniels. At 107, you're still getting a solid wide receiver, whether it be Odunze, Nabers.
Easily. You see a lot of Odunze falling past there. I mean, because I've been kind of a dick today in a few drafts. Like Odunze's there at 9 for some people, which is great. I mean, if I'm sitting there at 9, I'm pretty excited about it. Now, you can't always rely on a Mike being in your draft to take Bo Nix at 107 just to stick it to the rest of the league. But that is the case. If you just want to play this safe, take BPA, whether that's Marv or Caleb, or if you like Jaden Daniels, if Caleb goes first, go ahead and take Jaden Daniels, which is my 101. I've taken Jaden Daniels 101 in a ton of leagues. Some people like it, some people hate it. We can get into that when that comes, but 107, you're perfectly fine. You're going to get a Nabers or a Dunze. Hell, if you're a Brock Bowers fan, you're going to get a Brock Bowers there. So your options at 107 are really good too.
Yeah, we will definitely be talking about a lot of these guys. Let's get into the draft. Tonight's mock is a 4-round Superflex. Bring that up on the screen here. And again, 4-round Superflex tight end premium. We're going to go with a half-point tight end premium because I know that's what Mike enjoys the most. What I should have done, to be quite honest, knowing Mike was going to be here, is we should have done like a 1 quarterback.
Oh God.
2-point tight end premium. just to mess with, like, I'm gonna go ahead and get this draft started. And we will talk about a couple of these players as we go along. Couple questions as well as we go along, but we will hit these players as well. Caleb Williams coming off the board at the 101. Mike, what player in the draft, in the NFL draft, took the biggest hit due to landing spot for us fantasy players? And he's muted. Rookie.
Yeah. This is how it's going to start. As I'm on the clock too. Let's just get this pick in.
I didn't figure your pick was going to be that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. Listen, quarterbacks won. I didn't know what to do. I was panicked. Where's the next quarterback? But the biggest one for me, I think a lot of people are very, very high on Adonai Mitchell, and they may still be, but his kind of draft capital is all over the place. I think a lot of that deals with, we had some question marks about him coming into the draft a little bit. Falling to 52, having multiple teams kind of need wide receiver and go in other directions. I mean, it's still not bad draft capital by any stretch of the imagination, but the landing spot was terrible, at least in my opinion. I mean, it's a real run-heavy offense with a quarterback who's going to take off and run, and then you have an absolute alpha target hog on the other side where you got to kind of figure out, is Adonai in lineup leagues? Is that a guy in smaller lineups that I can start every single week? Like, what does he develop into? At least with like George Pickens, because it kind of profiles the similar way. Like that was a more higher volume passing offense that he kind of stepped into. This is a tough eval for me, and you kind of see him all over the place. Sometimes I see him at the back end of the first, and sometimes he's there in the late second. So I think people are really split on him. So if I had to put like one guy where it just this draft really just didn't help their case, Adonai Mitchell for me.
See, and I actually liked his landing spot just because of it does nothing for basically kills everything for Alec Pierce. But Chris, who is your guy that it just kind of just due to landing spot is just going to fall for you?
For me, it's the running back class outside of maybe Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks. The class as a whole took a giant hit, especially in value. If you're looking at ADP for rookie drafts, we were looking at maybe taking 4 to 5 running backs in the second round of rookie drafts before we found out landing spots and draft capital attached to a lot of these guys. They're dropping into the third round of some of these drafts. So the running back class as a whole took a major hit, I think, as we expected.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we expected it, especially with as deep as this wide receiver class is. But we always expect the NFL to do something crazy. And as far as the wide receivers go, they didn't jump too many of the running backs ahead of them. And that's probably because Dallas, like, I don't need a running back. So then everybody else is like, okay, well, if you're not going to take one, we don't have to take one. To be quite fair about it.
Yeah, a lot of the teams that we were hoping to take these running backs early to put them in good situations, like San Diego, they got Vidal, but they got Vidal a bit later. Braylon Allen, who a lot of people liked, had pretty high, ended up with the Jets in a crowded room. Jalen Wright, another guy that a lot of people like, another crowded room in Miami. The situation might suit him well with the scheme that they're running with the Dolphins, but with A-Chain there and Mostert, Jalen Wright becomes a guy that maybe you stash or you're not reaching up. Like we were seeing Jalen Wright go in early second. I don't know if we see that now with the situation that he's in.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the biggest winner is going to be Benson when it comes out of this. When the wash, ends up, the water stops flowing, it's going to be Benson because of the landing spot, in my opinion.
Brooks's spot on the Panthers, though, is pretty lucrative as well. If you look at what Canales did in Seattle, his time in Seattle, and then in Tampa Bay with Rashad White, if he finds a guy that he likes and he sticks him into his running back one role, and we've seen Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard not really be able to do anything with the workload. Jonathan Brooks, if he's got the juice and he comes in early training camp, he's been cleared of the injuries, or he should be cleared by the time camp rolls around. He could be a guy there in Carolina that could see a decent workload.
Yeah, Mike, which one are you taking? Are you taking Brooks or Benson?
Probably Jonathan Brooks.
Okay.
But in reality, whichever one you walk away from is fine. I usually don't find myself, at least in these drafts, drafting a lot of running backs because where they got to go is anywhere from the late first to, the 205, 206, somewhere in there is kind of where they're falling so far. I find myself, there's some other wide receivers, Xavier Legette, that's a first-round wide receiver that Carolina traded up for, and people just don't like him because he's a fifth-year breakout. I understand that part, but I'm going to go with the draft capital, and listen, the guy's got skills. His last year, his fifth year is pretty damn good. So, I usually find myself just leaning towards that, trying to scoop up that value. And the running backs, I don't think they're all that bad. None of them are all that bad of landing spot. The class as a whole wasn't great, but, even like Marshawn Lloyd is slipping to the third round sometimes, and it's not like Josh Jacobs was entirely that good last year. He wasn't. In all reality, I think Marshawn Lloyd could step into a situation if Josh Jacobs falters at all by the end of the year. That's the lead guy in Green Bay. In that offense, sign me up for that.
Yeah, I think the other thing about the whole Green Bay situation, I was actually on when that pick happened, and I was on with a Green Bay fan, and just absolute despair came across their face because they're like, why? And the one thing I think they you need to look at some of these contracts. And with Jacobs' contract, it's only a 4-year deal, but it's 4 one-year deals. They can get out at any point. So if for whatever reason, like you said, if there's an injury or if there's any kind of, illness during the year where he's out for a week and then Lloyd comes in there and just blows them away, or if he blows them away in practice, I mean, I don't hate the landing spot for Lloyd. Same kind of thing that I was going to say about Trey Benson out there in Arizona. There's no competition other than James Conner.
Yeah.
Well, so far James Conner been fighting off father time here. It feels like forever too, and just keeps producing. But at some point that's got to end, right? Some point it's got to end.
Our boy Drew piping in contract. Jacob's contract basically is just a juiced up 1-year deal. So yeah, agreed, 100%. I think we all do. Let me run through this. We are already done with the first round of this draft here. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Brock Bowers, tight end off the board at 107. Roma Dunze, Xavier Worthy, Michael Penix, Brian Thomas Jr., and then Bo Nix. 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. Ironically, 6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks of the NFL draft as well. I am glad Bowers is still hanging on to that first round capital, but with his landing spot there in Vegas, Mike, what do we do with these tight ends now?
I think the landing spot was fine. I get the feel that maybe they really want to go to this 12 personnel. I know they signed Michael Gallup, but ho-hum, who cares about that one today? It kind of feels like they're going to go to this more 12 personnel, and Brock Bowers is going to be their juiced-up slot guy, with Michael Mayer playing more in line, which, I mean, this absolutely nuked Michael Mayer hope that we had, which I didn't understand. But, again, it's a new coach. Antonio Pierce wants to do what he wants to do. So, I don't know. I'm fine with it. Just in general, though, most leagues, even half-point tight end premium leagues, 0.75 ones, sometimes 2-star tight end leagues with a half-point premium, you're going to find like a lot of what I do is look at warp graphs and historical warp and 5-year warp, and most of these tight ends just don't generate enough like juice at the top for me to really care about, because you're going to find production from the Tanner Hudsons of the world, the Jawan Johnsons a couple years ago. Like these kind of dudes just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you're getting pretty similar production to what may be a top 5 guy. I'm fine with it. Like, I understand people are going crazy for it. The whole Kyle Pitts, greatest tight end ever, and everybody's in their good feels about, my guy last year, Sam Laporta out of Iowa, tight end U. It looks good. Trey McBride had a hell of a end to the year last year. Like, people get excited about it, but sometimes they don't do anything, man. Sometimes they just don't. It took Evan Ingram forever, and he was a first-round tight end. Noah Fant still hasn't done shit. David Njoku, it took forever. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes it takes a while for these tight ends to kind of figure it out and how they're going to do it in the NFL, if they ever figure it out. So I think it's fine. The value's definitely there, but a lot of my Brock Bowers I'm just taking as like placeholders because maybe there isn't something else there. Maybe it is one of those leagues where the warp graph on tight ends actually does matter to an extent. They're much better than wide receivers, for example, in some of these leagues I've drafted in. But I don't know. I was kind of just ho-hum about the Brock Bowers landing spot as a whole, and then the Mayer thing, and I'm just going, okay. Well, it's just even easier for me to kind of fade Bowers at cost.
Yeah, Chris, you on the same spot there, no?
Yeah, I'm at the same. I'm in the same wavelength. As a Saints fan, seeing Brock Bowers there, knowing that we had to address the trenches, like I knew we had to pick an offensive lineman. I knew we had to address the defensive line. But seeing Brock Bowers just sitting there, I'm like, okay, I did not see the Raiders picking him, and I was like, we're going to take Brock Bowers. And fantasy-wise, I love the landing spot. We've seen what Derek Carr has done for tight ends in the past. And Brock Bowers being a better athlete and better tight end in general all around than Juwan Johnson would instantly become that second receiving option for the New Orleans Saints. And as a fantasy manager, I was getting excited. But then the Las Vegas Raiders came in and completely just tanked his value with the 1.7 there. I think I'm investing in Odunze or Worthy or like Mike here, I'm taking a quarterback because the value of a Bo Nix or a Michael P. Nix is only going to grow as your situation continues to unfold. Like Bo Nix in Denver has the opportunity to be the starting quarterback on a team with decent weapons, a decent defense. He's the head coach's guy. Sean Payton loves this guy. They reached up to pick him in the first round there. So being able to draft a Bo Nix ahead of maybe a Brock Bowers and then flipping a Bo Nix midseason to get a solid, more production viable tight end, I think is the way to go.
Yeah, I want to talk about this first round a little bit more, get a little bit more in depth now that we have the true landing spots. Now that we're through the second round here, and I'll read those off here in just a minute. But Mike, at what point are you sitting there in the first round and going, okay, I need to trade back right here because there's no the value that of the player that I want, I don't need to grab here, and somebody's going to want to give me another second, another third on top of this pick, and I can move back 2, 3, 4 spots, whatever that is. Is it at the 107 where Brock Bowers went, or is it 108? Is there where's that tier that you're like, okay, let me move back from here?
So if you took Bowers out and you threw up a Dunze instead, right? There's kind of your cutoff point. Now, I think when you get into Bo Nix, at least for quarterback needy teams, for those who want to be a little bit more ambitious with loading up and trying to stick your league mates, if you wanted to go 109 for him, like that's pretty fair. You have Bowers in the conversation too, but that's literally I'm just looking at draft value with him. So I really think like once you get past 108 though, you can kind of call that the next group of them. I mean, Brian Thomas is good. I like him. I like Xavier Worthy, but really, what's the difference between them or taking a Keon Coleman, Ladd, Xavier Legette, etc.? That next tier wide receivers. There is a difference. There's a tier break for me, but it's close enough where if you were to tell me I could get, somebody's 207, 208, something like that tossed onto it, I'll trade back a few spots easily.
Yeah, fantasy Roach is saying 12 teams Superflex full PPR. He got Worthy at 202. That seems
as I auto pick like a turd.
Well, I can fix that.
Go ahead, because there's no world I draft Audrey Augusta in a 4-round.
Give me 1 second. I can fix that. Let's go.
That's terrible.
Right, let's go. Change this player. Who do you want?
This is where you talk about stars and it just gets thrown out the window. It's nuts. Go ahead and give me Jalen Polk here.
You want to go Polk? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you just need to make sure that you remove yourself from being on.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
My apologies.
It's all good. That's why we mock, right? That's one reason why we mock, to make sure we don't auto pick as we're talking. Oh my Lord. Oh Lord. So the next couple quarterbacks off the board were Penix and Nix. We'll talk about Nix in a minute, but I want to talk about Drake Maye right here. Drake Maye at the 1-6, being the fourth quarterback off the board. I want to go to Chris first, and then you can rebuttal this, Mike, as soon as Chris is done. Did New England give him enough in this draft to be fantasy relevant year one? They gave him Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, and Jaheim Bell on the offensive side of the ball. Did they give him enough?
Yeah, I think they gave him enough. They gave him better weapons that he had at UNC with just Tez Walker for 8 games, and we saw what he did. Yeah, exactly. We saw what he did with that wide receiver core. We saw what he did with Josh Downs. Now he's got, like you said, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, Pop Douglas is still there, decent tight ends, good offensive line, solid running game. Drake Maye absolutely can be fantasy viable in his first year. Quarterback 1, I don't know if I'd go back end quarterback. Well, I'd keep him back end quarterback 2, top end quarterback 3 range as of right now.
I can get behind that. Before the draft, I'll say this, at least when evaluating prospects for an NFL team, like from an NFL standpoint, Caleb Williams and Drake Maye were very close. And for me, I actually had Drake Maye just a little bit above him. Like, I think he is that good. More in the mold of a Herbert or a Patrick Mahomes, where Caleb Williams reminds me more of kind of that Kyler level quarterback. Now, when you get to fantasy purposes, Kyler's a pretty damn good quarterback for fantasy when he's on too. So you get that plus with the value, right? The Bears, it's a great situation with everything they surrounded him with. The Dunze bringing in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, obviously. The offensive line's pretty good. And then Cole Kmet. You like the situation that he's in, and he's been loved for multiple years, right? He's very insulated as far as what happens to him this year. Definitely still Caleb Williams over there, but like Drake Maye is one that I'm a lot higher on, it feels like, than maybe the community is. I understand J.J. McCarthy kind of being in that conversation because anytime you're throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson when healthy, like that's pretty good. That's pretty good in a Kevin O'Connell offense. So I understand where that's coming from, but if I just want to look to the future a little bit, I mean, I think Drake Maye got enough in this draft. It wasn't perfect, obviously. Like the Jalen Polk, I like the guy. I just took him in the draft, but it's in the 3rd round. He's good. He's decent. Javon Baker's fine. It's better than doing nothing. It's better than doing nothing. I thought they could have done a little bit better. You know, they did end up trading back, and then that's how they got Polk. It's like, come on, man, just give me Ladd. Like, just put Ladd in there, and I would have got more excited. You know, give me Adonai. Even a guy like Adonai that I wasn't that high on, you could be like, oh, this could be a true alpha. Like Jalen Polk reminds me more of like that Jacoby Myers type number 1 wide receiver. Where you're like, hey, solid. Unspectacular, but solid. So I think maybe we'll kind of have to see how they do. They got a ton of money. We'll see if they can, you know, maybe make a trade here and there. There's a few guys out there rumored to be being shopped around. And you never really know what free agency is going to hold in 2025 either. So, I mean, he could be one real alpha weapon away for everybody eating crow who's fading them. And, you know, a few of these drafts, you see him slip into 109, 110, and you're like, what the hell are we doing? This is Justin Herbert 2.0 all over again.
And he's in the next year's class is, as you know, Mike, is pretty decent as well, wide receiver wise.
Yes, it is.
With McMillan, the top 3, Bird and Stewart coming in, then everyone else behind him. Still another solid class. So as a dynasty asset, Drake Maye, what he has now and what he could get going into the future could ultimately end up being a QB1.
Yeah,
a lot of it too, don't it feel like we've seen Mac Jones and the New England Patriots struggle for the last couple of years, and that taste of shit has just been stuck in our mouths here. Like this is where people are looking at Drake Maye and they're like, oh, it's just Mac Jones all over again. It's not. Vastly different quarterbacks.
Well, first thing is Drake Maye a year ago, at this time a year ago, we were all sitting there, you know, saying how good he was. If he had come out last year, he would have been, you know, up in the top of the of fantasy drafts. Then he lost all of his weapons. Okay, that's going to happen. He still didn't have a bad year. But you know, whatever. I still like Drake, man. I still like what he's capable of doing in New England. Big arm, all that kind of sort of thing. But I'm kind of moving backwards here. I want to know, Mike, your thoughts. You just took Ray Davis, which I absolutely love right there. By the way, I don't like his landing spot. He should have been in Tampa and leaving that one alone. Malik Nabers, landing spot in New York. How do you feel about that year 1?
I am never fading a wide receiver again because we think their situation is bad, especially one with a tremendous amount of talent. And anybody who thinks otherwise, go watch A.J. Brown get drafted to the Titans, to Marcus Mariota, and everybody's like, oh, this is terrible. We don't want to see him there. Didn't fucking matter for A.J. Brown. It didn't matter. As soon as Ryan Tannehill came in and took over and the quarterback situation changed, you could never get A.J. Brown for what that rookie price was ever again. You could never sniff that. So Malik Nabers, kind of the same thing. I don't think Daniel Jones is great. I'm not giving a hot take here. I think most people don't think he's that good. One thing he does do, though, when he does throw deep, it's a pretty nice deep ball. It is a crappy offensive line, which also does lend itself to Nabers' talents of being a real good yak guy, like that Jamar Chase type, where doesn't always have to get deep. Doesn't really matter if the offensive line's bad. They're going to manufacture enough touches for him and quick slants, screens, crossers, that kind of thing. So I think from a fantasy perspective, it's fine. Don't move him up, obviously, because the landing spot's not as good as Marvin Harrison, but you're not going to move him down. You shouldn't move him down. If you had him above Adunze, He should still be there. If you had a Dunze above him, nothing really changed. Put it in the same spot. So both him and a Dunze are pretty damn good prospects. So Malik Nabers, no qualms about him still kind of being in that conversation as that next wide receiver after Marvin Harrison.
Awesome. All right, so I want to get to a couple of these questions that are in the chat. If you have questions, please drop those in the chat. If we can get to them, we absolutely will. And if not, we will answer them later on as well. And of course, as always, our DMs are open, so you can always DM us. Steven's he's got 106, 107. He doesn't need a quarterback, but at 107, is it better to trade it or just take the best available quarterback that's there? Chris.
If you don't have, if you don't need a quarterback, and like a guy like Odunze or Bowers doesn't fall to you, trade back, man. See what the value, see what the pick's going to get you, whether it gets you an established player or it gets you more draft capital. 107, you move back to the 111, 112. You're still going to get a solid dynasty piece, and you pick up some more draft capital that, again, you can either draft the player or use to move for next year's picks. Maybe you move back from 107 to gain a 111 and 112, and you work a deal to gather a 25 first if you're in a position to do that, because the 25 class next year, at least running back wise, especially if you don't need a quarterback. The quarterback class is not as sexy, but running back wise, wide receiver wise, man, there's a ton of good talent coming out next year.
Mike, Ryan is throwing this directly at you. He said he has a quarterback needy team, and he has the 102. Caleb went 101. He took Marvin Harrison Jr. over Daniels, then traded the 202 and 302 for Baker Mayfield, 402 and 404. So he ended up getting a couple picks for trading a couple picks earlier. And then, of course, Nix fell to the 202 where he could have had Nix and still had his draft capital. I think that was directly. Still not sure if you'd rather have Nix. Would you rather have Nix over Baker Mayfield?
Depends on what you're doing with your team, right? If your goal was to compete this year and kind of fill out your roster, having Baker over Nix is very, very, very plausible and probably the smart move, right? Rookie quarterbacks might take them a little while. Before they're actually putting fantasy points up on the field at a good clip. And I think Baker can do that from week one for you. So if that was your move, I don't mind that at all. But if you're looking at it more in this lens, if you're one of these people who play in this, like, I'm trying to build for 2025 or 2026, I kind of feel like it's going to be my window to go for it. Yeah, you're going to want that trade back. Like, dang, wish I could have just had Nix and the 302, whatever you got there, which was that? Benson not in this draft. Could have been Marshawn Lloyd, Roman Wilson, Jermaine Burton, something along those lines. I think you much rather would have had that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to read through this second round real quick. But before I do, 30 some odd people watching, hit that like, hit that thumbs up for us, hit that subscribe. We are on the way to 1,000. We get there before the NFL season. It will only be because of you. Keon Coleman at the 201, Laube McConkey at the 202, Xavier Legette, Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Blake Corum, Ricky Pearsall, the new San Francisco 49er, the Florida Gator, Adonai Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright, Malachi Corley to round out the second round. Kyle has a trade advice if able. Send James Cook for the 110 and 204. 12-team Superflex. All the rookies, running backs are available, as well as Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Worthy, Laube McConkey. My running back room is Gibbs, Ramondre, and Spears and Kendre Miller, it looks like.
This is a smash, Kyle. Like, hit the button.
Yeah.
hit the button. Send that thing already. The 110, like you said, BTJ, Worthy, Ladd, whatever you wanted to do there. The 204, you might fall into this one, Trey Benson. Like, if you told me I could down tier from James Cook to a Trey Benson or Jonathan Brooks and pick up one of these really nice back-end first-round receivers, hell yeah, all day.
Yeah, are you with it? Because I'm with that, Chris. Are you with that? Because I think that Spears could absolutely be a little bit more viable this year in fantasy than a lot of people think he could.
Yeah, I'm with it, man. And like we seen here, Trey Benson went to 204. So 111, Brian Thomas and Trey Benson, you're taking that.
Yeah, I think that's a smash as well. Ryan says he's always trying to win. Thanks. Feel better now. And then, of course, Josh, Ryan doesn't know how to play for the future. Ryan just needs to go play redraft. Ryan needs to just go play redraft. The roller says, Mike, I'm not sure if you remember me, but I said I had Waddle over Odunze. Now I slightly have Odunze over Waddle, but they're close.
Yeah. This happens every year to the best of us. It happens to everybody, right? Before the actual draft is made. And this is why you'll see, if you look at anything with ADP, like we've become very accustomed now to using kickers as placeholders in these startups that happen before the NFL draft. The picks always go a round and a half later than what they do as soon as we get player names put to them. Like you go do a startup now and see where the not necessarily the 101 or the 102, they usually kind of fall in the right range, but these mid-round picks, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I mean, they're going to be 2 rounds higher now if you were to match up. So if you were to take this 1-for-1, Rome Odunze went to 108, you know where you're getting the 108 when that was a kicker in a startup just a couple months ago? Like the 7th, 8th round. Good luck grabbing Rome Odunze in the 7th or 8th round now today in a startup. It happens all the time. It happens all the time because we have nothing to do but to talk about rookies. Like we have nothing to do. And now the hype kind of builds and the good body feels like kind of build. Now, if you're smart and if you're like Ryan and you're always playing to win.
Whoa.
Now is the peak time to start to capitalize on some of this rookie hype. Like as soon as these rookie drafts get over and we got rookie OTAs and we're seeing these guys out there running routes on air, making spectacular catches, and teams are throwing out hype videos left and right. You want to go win now? Trade these rookies, go get some proven vets, and backfill with capital in 2025.
Yep.
That's how you make successful dynasty teams. But dynasty is always a cycle. It's always a cycle. Right now we're in young superstar. Every one of these rookies we're going to pick is going to be an all-star. It's going to be the best thing ever. Come August, come September, come October, people realize where the fantasy points are actually coming from, and it's old crusties like Keenan Allen and Mike Evans that nobody gives a shit about at the time. So just keep that in the back of your mind that we're in the peak rookie hype cycle. So when Adam and I are trying to do trades, especially once the season ends, I'm trying to think about where's it going to be when we get to May and when we get to June. So when I tell you I got Rome Odunze over Jalen Waddle, it's not me being hot takey. It's me being that the market's going to react that way, more than likely, once we get there.
Yeah, I think that's something that as dynasty managers, we have to ingrain ourselves. What is the time frame that we are currently living in compared to what's the time frame going to be in 2 months? Currently, everything's all about the rookies. You can trade a rookie right now, gain capital, like you said, Mike, for next year in 25 and go get a vet that is going to put up the same number this rookie is going to put up in his rookie year and just continue that process and still be successful. Now, where I have a problem with what you said, or where I'm going to push back, is that you used Ryan and Smart in the exact same sentence. And
oh, man.
I'm going to push back on that one.
Ryan catching strays left and right.
Oh yeah. I sent it in the group chat for Ryan, for anybody that joined tonight, and of course Ryan's like, "Well, if you're gonna force me," and then here he is. It is what it is. It's Ryan. He'll get me back next week, I'm sure. we cross shows and banter back and forth. Bo Nix goes here at the 112, and his new/old teammate goes at 209. Bo Nix, Troy Franklin, combination from Oregon, is now moving to Denver. Thoughts on Bo Nix going 12 overall, Troy Franklin going in I think it was the 3rd round for Denver there. But that combination going to Denver, how does that make you feel in fantasy? Does it make you feel better about Bo Nix? Does it make you feel better about Troy Franklin, or better about both?
So Troy Franklin could have he ended up going in the 4th round. It could have been, the Patriots selected, obviously, Javon Baker After him, Devontae Walker went to the Ravens in the 4th round, and Jacob Cowing went to the 49ers. I will say if you're going to do any kind of mental gymnastics, like the whole shower narrative with this college quarterback, like that would make you feel a little bit better. Could you imagine if Troy Franklin, though, went to some team like, I don't know, the Colts? They backfilled with wide receiver depth. Like something like that in the 4th round. Where do you think his ADP is right now? 4th, 5th round pick? Like those good body feels go out the window real quick. So I think it's a little bit of people were high on him coming in. I mean, this is a guy who some mock drafts before the NFL draft was a 1st round pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was going 111, 112 in a lot of our drafts.
Early second. I mean, I did 20-some pre-NFL rookie drafts, like real money leagues. Mm-hmm. We had our rookie drafts before. I got a few shares of him, but I think they're at like the 202, 201, somewhere in that range. I think it's a combination of that. It's a combination of, Denver being with his college quarterback kind of makes you feel a little bit more certainty about it. If you took the name out and said Troy Franklin played at, SMU, does anybody really care? Does anybody really care that much? Like, kind of look where Rashee Rice, he got better NFL draft capital than Troy Franklin did last year.
Yep.
And that was a guy in rookie drafts in a worse class that was, 3rd round? 4th round sometimes? It's absolutely nuts. So the Troy Franklin thing, I think it's kind of the perfect confluence of, go ahead if you want to take Troy Franklin. But this is also a guy, if you send me a decent enough offer, like just anything I can get out right now at the 209 prices, by all means, you take him. You take him. You ride that train and hope that you found the next Puka Nacua. Good luck on that, though. How many of those guys that we draft in this range for wide receivers, even me, Jalen Polk, right, doesn't have like super great draft capital. It's good enough, but it's no sure thing. How many of these guys that we end up taking in these 3rd, 4th rounds just become absolutely nothing? A lot of these guys will cut off our teams before the season even starts when the NFL inevitably puts them on a practice squad or something. So kind of a risky one, but I do understand how the pre-NFL draft feels come into play, and then the narrative about playing with Bo Nix in Denver as well.
Chris, you feeling good about Troy Franklin now, aren't you?
No, I might hit it square on the head with Troy Franklin. It's the narrative is there that he's attached to Bo Nix, his college quarterback, but like Mike says, what's ultimately his role in Denver going to be on that depth chart? So 2.9 might be a little rich there for me with Troy Franklin. But, I mean, a lot of these wide receivers as a whole, everyone was touting this class being so deep and how we'll see a lot of these guys go day 1, day 2. And a lot of them fell to day 3, 4th, 5th, 6th round. There's a lot of guys that we liked. So, and Troy Franklin being one of them, man.
Yeah, I really liked it at first, but now that Mike puts it in my ear, I'm like, golly.
Well, what's his ceiling ultimately? Wide receiver 4? Is that his ceiling on Denver for a fantasy finish? Wide receiver 4 there.
I mean, why do you gotta bring logic into this? This is fantasy.
I guess
Are we supposed to be fantasy.
The rosiest of scenarios that I can think of.
Wide receiver 2.
I brought it up on the draft stream is back in the day, Washington selected Dwayne Haskins, and then they came back and I've been corrected. It was the 3rd round. I thought it was the 4th round, but in the 3rd round, took his college teammate Terry McLaurin, and we saw what Terry went on to be a pretty damn good wide receiver. So that's probably your rosiest of outcomes that you're looking at, which is pretty good for even if you were to take him at the 209. How likely is it, though? Like, what is that percentage? Like, how many times have we done this? You guys remember when Brian Edwards was like the 201 pick in Superflex drafts? Like, a guy, what was he, 4th, 5th round draft capital? And we just kept doing this good body talk every single year about Brian Edwards until he just faded into oblivion and never to be heard from again. So keep in mind that is within the range of outcomes, too. Like, you can have a Terry McLaurin Rosie situation, but it's probably far more likely that it's, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. Guy. That was the dude that I really wanted. Hakeem Butler. There's another name for you.
Yeah.
Pre-NFL draft darling. How'd that work out too?
Okay, we're gonna move on.
One more thing though. Troy Franklin gets the ultimate kiss of death by being labeled the best ball wide receiver.
The best bow. Yeah, that's a backhanded compliment if there ever was one. Huh?
Wow. So I'm drafting him tomorrow night. Then okay, that's cool. Thank you so much for that, Chris. Thank you so much for that. Kimani Vidal gets drafted by the I almost said San Diego. I almost did it. The Los Angeles Chargers, who we thought Blake Corum was going to go to. Everybody mocked Blake Corum to him, but they ended up with Kimani Vidal, and the world wants to know, what do you think about him and the landing spot, Mike?
I like him better than what actually there were some NFL drafted running backs that went higher than him. But I like him better than a lot of those guys, right? He did go in the same round as Jace McClellan, Jawar Jordan, and Dylan Laube. Now, I will make a case for Dylan Laube, too, when we get to him. He's Mr. Irrelevant in this draft, but that's somebody you can wrap your head around with the role. I think Kimani Vidal is in the very same mold, and I actually value him just a little bit more. But, I want him on my teams more than I want Isaiah Davis, Keelan Robinson, who's basically just a kick returner. All right, go watch the film on him and tell me if you're that impressed with him running the football. Audric Estime, I know some people might really like Audric Estime. Not a big fan. Sub-90 speed score running backs that hit in the NFL to any degree are very few and far between. I mean, I can give you one, and it's Kyron Williams. And good luck trying to find another one. If you find one, let me know, because I've been searching for a while. Braylon Allen. If you wanted to make the case over Braylon Allen, that's fine, even though he got drafted a couple rounds earlier. And you can wrap your head around the scenario where, what if, knock on wood, I do got some real wood here, so we're good. Knock on wood, Breece Hall were to go down at some point. Other than that, though, I have a tough time making a case for him over like a Garendo, Ray Davis, even a Will Shipley backing up Saquon. Kind of feels good, but he's very intriguing. I definitely, though, I'm not drafting Isaiah Davis or Audric Estime, Keelan Robinson, Jace McClellan, or Jawar Jordan anywhere near where I will shoot my shot on Kimani Vidal.
Chris, you want to add anything about Kimani?
No, he nailed it again there. Just a situation that could lend well to his talents in Los Angeles. They're a team that's going to run the ball a lot. They got the guys in front of him, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. We know deal with injuries as a commonality in their profiles. So Gus Edwards has bad knees. J.K. Dobbins has bad legs in general. So there could be, we don't want anybody to get injured, but there could be an easier pathway for Kimani Vidal to get snaps over some of these other guys who aren't behind as injury-prone running backs.
We got Ron T in there talking about, hey, fellas, I have the 101 and the 103. My arch nemesis has the 102 and 104. I want to beat him. Best 1-2 punch out of the top four. Would you go Caleb and Nabers or MJ and Maye or Daniels? Superflex, full PPR.
Ooh, with the 101, though, don't get too cute with it. For me, if you really wanted the best ceiling play out of it, this is the case I'll make for Jaden Daniels. Adam and I did a multi-part series looking at WARP, looking at fantasy points for quarterbacks and where fantasy points come from for quarterbacks, and how often to be an elite quarterback to hit that top 3 season, or if you're a WARP fan, a 2.0 WARP, just which is pretty damn good in a normal Superflex league. What actually went into it? What kind of stats did a quarterback need? And you find out these rushing quarterbacks, if you can hit 700-800 yards on the ground, which Jaden Daniels definitely could, you only have to throw for about 3,700 yards passing. You really do. I mean, historically, you look at Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, all these rushing quarterbacks just tend to get this leg up. They just walk in with extra passing yards and touchdowns just built in because they're rushing for so many yards on the ground. So when I say absolute ceiling, Jaden Daniels has that in it. Jaden Daniels in 3-4 years, we could be talking about QB 1 or 2 in a startup. That's how good or how big his ceiling is. Now, does he have a bigger bust potential than Caleb Williams? Yeah, I can acknowledge that too. So if you want to play it on the safe side, just go Caleb. If you want to get really risky and you just hey, I want to smash this guy, Jaden Daniels is going to be the pick for me, and I'm willing to risk it for him. Another good one we brought up when we were talking about him, Think about a few years back, Andrew Luck and RG3, like when they came in. The generational quarterback prospect, and then the guy who used his legs to run for a Heisman. They both came into the league. You want to take a guess who scored more fantasy points in their rookie year? By a wide margin.
Well, you're asking the question, so it's got to be RG3 then, right?
Yeah, like 21.4 points per game in his rookie year. 21.4 points per game in a rookie year for like what RG3 did would have been a top 2, top 3 quarterback this past year. So just think about that. And Jaden Daniels definitely could run for 700-800 yards next year. Doesn't have to be that great throwing the football either. This is also why I'm very, very high on Anthony Richardson coming in this year. I know the injury risk, and we still have questions about him passing, but I mean, this is the dude when he did play is 20 points per game. Just shits him out. Just here you go. We hate Justin Fields now, but think about how good some of those runs for Justin Fields were for fantasy points. You know, those back halves of the season, the last 2 years. It's like, oh, you don't even got to be that good at throwing the football. Just run a bunch. You'll be fine.
Yeah, we've seen Daniel Jones produce QB1.
Yes, you have.
For that reason, because he uses his feet. Crappy quarterback, but fantasy-wise, he's got the wheels, man.
Absolutely.
And Ryan says, also, would you prefer stacking Caleb and Odunze over Nabers, or should I just stop worrying about it? Should I not worry about the stack? My QB2 is Tua. After Tua is Bryce. By the way, wide receiver 1 is Olave.
If I can't sell you on Jaden, Ron, if I can't sell you on Jaden, you do take Caleb, which is completely fine, by the way. Don't feel pressured at all. I'm just making the case for Jaden. If you do go Caleb, I have Nabers and Odunze literally like 50-50 in my rankings. So just for portfolio aspects, you know, sometimes I'll take one, sometimes I'll take the other. If I'm you though, like if I really did have them 50-50, I think they're close. That's more than enough if I want to talk myself into the stack narrative easily for me to push it above. So if I had the 101 and I know I'm taking one of those guys with my next pick, it's going to be a Dunze for me every single time. Like that stack is enough to just push me over, going like, maybe I get that one little weekly edge, that one time where I score one more points, that stack's going to pay off.
Now you're on mute.
Yeah, it's contagious.
This rookie over here. I'm going to run through the third and fourth round real quick, and then I'll get a few more questions in, hopefully. 301, we had Marshawn Lloyd, Ben Sinnott at 302, Jalen Polk, Audric Estime, Roman Wilson, who I really like. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, hit a home run right there, getting Wilson in the third round. Burton, Baker, Vital, we just talked about. Walker, Crowling. I haven't heard of this one yet, Chris. Yeah. You might need to talk to me about the 311 here. Raymond. Yeah. Sanders going to Carolina at 312, and then Jordan Travis, who I am absolutely all in, getting him in the fourth round. If you can slide him in, Will Shipley, Ray Davis, Jalen McMillan, another guy that I have been all in on this year. Spencer Rattler, which Chris, you can elaborate on Spencer Rattler, your new quarterback down there in New Orleans. Jaheim Bell, Luke McCaffrey, Tracy Irvin, and then we had Theo Johnson, Rasheen Ali, and then Dylan Laube, which I'm sure Mike will get into here in just a few minutes. But one of the Mike says the late running back I'm kind of feeling is Tyrone Tracy, Giants running back that could find a role quickly there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I left him out when we were talking about Kimani Vidal because I will probably draft Tyrone Tracy before him everywhere. I'm very much aboard this train as well. This is a guy I got to watch play. Played at Iowa as a wide receiver. Pretty dynamic for us, which is saying something because our offense is always terrible outside of tight ends at this point. No quarterbacks are always garbage. But I was excited to see him. And then he breaks my heart and he transfers to Purdue, which, you know, I hate Purdue with a passion. They're in the Big Ten. I hate the Purdue Boilermakers. Sorry if you're a Purdue fan. Switches to running back and then actually comes out this year and really just like put on a show as a running back. Like, really did. You go look at some of his advanced metrics and stuff on PFF or whatever site that you use. Yards after contact per attempt, breakaway run rate. You obviously know he can catch the football being a wide receiver convert. I got to see that firsthand. Very natural at that. Good size. Comes out at the combine, does a great job, kills the combine. Tyrone Tracy is somebody I'm very interested in. And if you really look at it, Eric Gray, I mentioned sub 90 speed score running backs. Add Eric Gray to that list too, because he's a sub 90 speed score guy. Like, as much as we used to like him back in the Devy days and that kind of shit, that's over. It's done. Not a threat at all. And Devin Singletary, like, thank you for your service with Houston last year, but now it's behind the Giants' whole offensive line. T's and P's to you, buddy. Not a lot of competition there either. You look at Gus Edwards in L.A. with the Chargers, and you go, oh, this backfield isn't that good either. Tyrone Tracy's got an equally shitty one. Shitty. But the one thing for him is you got to think they're going to come out and they're going to throw the ball a little bit more than what the Chargers do this year. Their offensive line isn't going to hold up, so they're not going to be able to run the ball. A lot of dump-offs for a pass-catching running back. Like, there's a big role to be had for him. So that's one I'm kind of excited on. And if you miss, you miss. But, you know, what did we get him here? The 408?
Yeah, 408, yeah.
Sometimes he's a fifth-round pick. Sometimes he goes undrafted, for Christ's sake. So Tyrone Tracy, sign me up for all the Tyrone Tracy I can get my hands on.
Yeah, if you're gonna be drafting running backs this late, that's kind of what you're looking for, right? That
1,000%.
that guy. Chris, talk to me about Dylan Laube, and then we'll let Mike go on another half-hour rant.
I mean, just like some of the other guys we talked about, it's the situation, the athletic profile, what he can do on the field, the pass catching, the as a running back, running in between the tackles. He's got Zamir White ahead of him. Just another guy. The draft capital wasn't great, but the landing spot and the opportunity in front of him could be good at the 412. Going to take a shot on a late running back here. For me, with the running backs is kind of scary. I'm not investing too heavily in any of the running backs in this draft class. But for a late round guy, 412, Laube, I like what he did. Like we did at the combine, like we did at the Senior Bowl as well. I'm going to take a shot there.
Hey, you hit it on the head. I like the shot. One thing I will say, we do know about Zamir White, not a giant pass-catching threat. Like, not that kind of guy. So, the pass-catching back last year was Amir Abdullah. He's been in the league for 48 years at this point out of Nebraska. Like, it kind of feels like his time's coming to an end. And neither one of the quarterbacks, no matter which one starts this year, whether it's Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, especially Aiden O'Connell, are super mobile quarterbacks, right? Yep. When they get in trouble, what do? Dump off to running backs. So, kind of intrigued by Dylan Laube here. And hell of a pick at 412. Why not? Again, another guy in some of these you're going to see goes to the 5th round, or, you know, if you only got 4 rounds, might go UDFA kind of style.
All right, I want to throw a couple at you here. Just player versus player here. Keon Coleman versus Ladd McConkey. Which one do you want, or which one would you prefer?
Close my eyes and flip a coin. I'm a big fan of both of their games. It felt like for a long time I'm Jon Snow fighting off the horde against Keon Coleman because, you know, 4.640, terrible, never gonna make it. Buffalo said that didn't matter. First pick of day 2.
Kelvin Benjamin, how you doing?
Yeah. Ladd's really nice. The one thing that kind of holds Ladd down, not too much though, because there's literally nobody else there that I worry about for that passing game. You do know it's going to be a more run-heavy approach in LA with the Chargers than it's going to be in Buffalo. Just a given. They're going to go out and run the football quite a bit, but I still think he could have such a target share where it just really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I like both of them. I think if you wanted to be the more secure and smart play, like be a little bit more savvy, you'd probably put Ladd over Keon. I still have questions about how he's going to fit in there. Like, he does need to kind of play that big slot role, which really feels like what they drafted last year in Dalton Kincaid. So I don't know exactly how that's going to mesh together. You can see Ladd coming in, though, and just getting 140 targets just out the gate because there's nobody else there. Unless you want to throw Quentin Johnston, Mr. Bust, into that equation.
Oh, we're going to talk about some bust. Hang on a second. Quit trying to skip ahead, Mike. I know we've been on for an hour. I know it's coming. We got to wrap it up. I get it. But
Hey man, I did 17 hours live. Okay,
Yeah,
an hour's
I know it.
nothing.
I know it. You good with Ladd McConkey over Keon Coleman, rather? Or should I just call him what he is? Should I just say you're good with Ladd McConkey over
Don't do
Kelvin
it.
Benjamin?
Don't say Kelvin Benjamin. No,
Yeah.
don't do it. Yeah, no, I like Ladd McConkey over Keon Coleman. Even though Keon Coleman is on his manifestation tour, talking about when he was in the Bills stadium, he pictured himself catch 3 touchdowns in 30 seconds. He's playing Madden as himself, catching touchdown passes from Josh Allen. So he is putting it out into the universe that he's going to be the guy for the Buffalo Bills. But like I've been saying all night, like Mike said, Ladd McConkey is on the pathway to a giant amount of targets. So I'm going to take Ladd McConkey in that offense.
Yeah, and if they haven't already, Macy's needs to get that man a deal. That interview after was just yeah. How is that not already done?
Oh man.
Real quick, let me get back over here to that chat real quick. Trap says, would y'all trade for Jamar Chase for Caleb Zay? Okay, let's do this. Jamar Chase or Caleb Zay Flowers and a 25 first, Mike.
That's almost too much to say no for. I was going to ask, is this like a start 9, start 8 league? Because in that, you really want the studs, which makes it a little tougher to trade away Jamar Chase, especially because you listed that you're pretty set at quarterback. But, I mean, you're talking about if you just wanted to go with value, Jamar Chase and Caleb Williams are going to go very, very similarly in startup drafts. Like, they're going to be a few picks apart. Probably Chase over Caleb, but it's not going to be by much, and then somebody's just going to toss you a Zay Flowers and a 25 first. I don't even care where that goes. That's making that deal. Here we haven't even hit May yet. Making that deal with 4 months to go till we hit the NFL season, it's like I could do quite a bit with this. I could do quite a bit with this, whether it's moving on from Herbert or trading Bryce Young or whatever. I think I just go ahead. Yeah, wow, he's going all in. I love it.
Give me Jamar Chase. All right, that's the answer, right? That's the answer
for you.
Yeah.
I'm greedy. I like just plethora of assets. Just give me all the stuff to play with. Yeah, I'll figure the rest out. I got till September.
Listen, okay, stupid is as stupid does here, but let's just throw this out there. You even in a Superflex, you can only have 2 starting quarterbacks in your lineup.
Correct.
All four of the quarterbacks that he has, A-Rich, Herbert, Young, Chase, Caleb, they all go for 30-plus points. You're wasting 2 of them sitting on your bench.
That's assuming you keep them all that time.
Well, yeah. I'd rather have Chase and then I'll worry about shipping out Young or something like that.
You don't think if there's another team in your league that's really quarterback needy, they wouldn't trade you somebody like an Amon-Ra straight up for your Justin Herbert in a heartbeat?
But I already have,
I already have 4 starters.
Jamar too. I already have Jamar too. Give me Jamar, give me Amon-Ra, give me A-Rich, give me Herbert, and I won't even need to worry about bye weeks. Bye week who? All right, do we have a clear-cut RB1 in this class now, Chris?
I'm going to go yes, and I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks landing with the Carolina Panthers. I just haven't liked what I've seen with Miles Sanders, haven't seen what I liked with Chuba Hubbard, even though Chuba Hubbard was decent down the stretch when he did get the opportunity, but Jonathan Brooks' abilities as a runner, as a pass catcher, is just much better than the guys that they have there. You could have Trey Benson as your RB1. I'm not going to get mad at you or put you down for doing that because his situation, his situation is good, but it's not as good as I see Jonathan Brooks' situation coming to. Blake Corum's situation too, nice. He just not enough for me to put him as the RB1. I don't know about you, Mike, but for me, it's Jonathan Brooks right now.
I use a golf analogy here. You got a leader in the clubhouse, right? Jonathan Brooks just finished up the 18th hole. He's got a 1-shot lead, but Trey Benson's teeing off at the 18th. So he's the leader in the clubhouse right now. I think there's enough case to be made with how Trey Benson tested, his size, his profile, very similar draft capital, and again, with the James Conner thing, like, I don't want to discount the guy because every year that I discount him, he just comes back and he just like, hey, I'm just going to ship fantasy points left and right for you. I know you guys wrote me off, but at some point, man, at some point, Father Time comes calling for everybody. At some point, they must be thinking about it as well, going like, hey, we might phase you out. And if you told me right now that James Conner wasn't going to play in 2024 with Jonathan Brooks' ACL, the situation in Carolina in the offense, and now with what the situation is in Arizona with Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, Kyler Murray fully healthy, oh my God, would this even be a conversation?
No. We would have a new leader in the clubhouse.
So I'm just saying. I think it's pretty close.
Lee just got dissipated.
Yeah, it's over.
Exactly. He just hit an eagle on 18.
The albatross just happened. I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. Mike, what is the one wide receiver, one day 3 wide receiver, and why is it Roman Wilson?
Oh, Roman Wilson's a good pick, though. Like, I can't fault you for that one. Steelers don't miss often. They don't miss often with these kind of guys. And when they make a statement, you kind of pay attention. Even if it's guys that turn out to be shitters elsewhere, Chase Claypool, done. I mean, people will point to, like, Sammy Coates, but I remember being in redraft leagues, having Sammy Coates on a team, but sometimes going like, yeah, I found something here. So every now and then they do it. I think probably it's tough for me because I'll take the guy that got taken just before him, and it's the same division, Jermaine Burton. I think Jermaine Burton, for me anyways, if he didn't have any of the off-field stuff, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's a second-round pick pretty easily. But because he had some of the off-field stuff, I was very worried about where to rank him, how the NFL was going to feel, and Cincinnati was like, nah, we good. We'll go ahead and take you in the 3rd round here. And they did take him before Roman Wilson. That's a guy, what if T. Higgins goes? Oh, my God. Like, he's already in a good spot where you just slot him into that Tyler Boyd role, like that kind of target share, and go, all right, I got some fantasy production right out the gate here. If T. Higgins goes to, as the number 2 to Jamar Chase, the guy that you wouldn't trade away for Caleb Zay Flowers and a first, oh, baby. Like, Jermaine Burton could be something special. Now, he's got to keep his head on his shoulders, all right? Make a few better decisions, Jermaine, but he could be really good too. But I do agree, it's really close. I just have a personal preference of Burton right now.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know if Roman Wilson said he left a run-first offense to go into what's shaping up to be a run-first offense. So ultimately, I don't know what his role is going to be on the Steelers. And now, I mean, our trusted source of news, ESPN, has dropped that the Steelers are working on a huge wide receiver trade as well. So that could also sink Roman Wilson's value. But I kind of like Tez Walker day 3, landing with the Baltimore Ravens. The Rashad Bateman extension kind of maybe hurt his value a little bit. He might, they kind of are almost the same type of player, but Devontae Walker can have a nice role as the field stretcher for that Baltimore Ravens offense. So for me, day 3 guy, I kind of like Tez.
I don't know how you fit this in every single week with the CTE ESPN. I don't know how you do
it. It's a skill.
It's a skill. It's an absolute skill. And I'm gonna have to start throwing questions to you, and I'm gonna have to make sure that you put on the show sheet exactly what you're gonna say. You have to say it verbatim. You cannot use it no more. Great job with that. Golly. No, I mean, to your point though, Tank Dell, anybody? Came from a run-first offense in college. I mean,
yeah,
you have it.
Is it a run-first offense in the NFL, Houston?
They weren't an offense in the NFL, so that's at that point.
We talked about him this time last year as a horrible landing spot for CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Like, look at these weapons. It's Houston. It's disgusting. Yeah. Which, again, also puts me back to my Drake Maye hype. We did this shit last year. We were right on 50% of them because we did it for Bryce Young too. But, hey, just say it. 50-50 on whether or not Drake Maye is actually in that bad of a spot.
I don't think he is. Are we investing in any quarterbacks outside the first round?
Only one, Spencer Rattler.
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
End of
I like
list.
that.
The rest of them I'll pick up off waivers if I'm just feeling frisky.
And you're not touching him until the fourth round, fifth round, depending on
You could make a case maybe in the third round, but I think that's just because if he had gone to some place with a decent starter, you could write him off, and I just go like, okay, I'm good.
So Jordan Travis is off your board altogether, going to the Jets.
As a closet Florida State fan, as Fizzle would call me, the old school, that guy cannot throw for shit. He cannot. You want to know why Keon Coleman's tape doesn't look the greatest? You want to know why Johnny Wilson slipped to the 6th round in the NFL draft? His quarterback was terrible. Which is saying something because the two guys that replaced him after he got hurt were even worse, like 10 times worse. You prayed for Jordan Travis to be back there, but he had a nice game versus LSU, and then the rest of it, like watching him throw the football is painful. And this is coming from an Iowa guy who has to watch Deacon fucking Hill throw the football, and Spencer Petras throw the football, and please God, Cade McNamara just not suck. That's all I ask for in 2024. So it's painful. I like his athletic upside. And I like the kid. I think he's probably a winner, but I'm good, man. You got to learn how to be accurate, and he's not accurate at all.
But he's going to Aaron Rodgers, taking over the Zach Wilson role. So I mean, there's
for everybody out there who clowns Joe Milton for being inaccurate. I will venture to say that Joe Milton is far more accurate than Jordan Travis is throwing the football.
Yeah, it's fair. I'm going to bring this draft board up one more time. I want to know, I'll start with Chris first. What player does not belong in this first 2 rounds? Is there one that doesn't belong in these first 2 rounds?
As much, I mean, I could make a case for 2 guys, but as much as it hurts me to say it because I was so high on him his freshman year at Wisconsin, I'm going to go Braylon Allen here in the second. I used the first 2 rounds in my rookie drafts to try to get as much fantasy production as I can. Braylon Allen is a guy with the draft capital that he got and the landing spot that I'm looking to maybe just pick in the 3rd or 4th round of my drafts to possibly maybe hope that he falls into a situation with the Jets. But for me, like, I'm right now more inclined to take Marshawn Lloyd or one of the wide receivers, the 3rd round wide receivers over Braylon Allen at this point.
Mike, do you have one?
I'm a big Braylon Allen guy too, like big fan. Even though I'm an Iowa guy, like watching him at Wisconsin was impressive. I can't disagree with you there. The other one I'll give you, Malachi Corley doesn't deserve to be in the first, 30, 36 picks. He just doesn't. I tried to make a case for him, even going to the Jets, and maybe there's some San Fran like carryover from Saleh, and they're gonna use him like Debo or whatever. But I go look back at his college stats, and yes, like the total counting stats are fine, but that ADOT is abysmal. This guy cannot run routes downfield, cannot get downfield. Once upon a time, I was a big Laviska Shenault fan coming out. Laviska got better draft capital, and his ADOT was never as bad as Malachi Corley's was. So I'm like, oh shit, like this is even worse. This is a worse situation. Hard pass for me on Malachi, unfortunately. There's a lot of people who like him.
Biggest value tonight, Mike. Which one's the biggest value for you?
Ooh, Bo Nix at the 112. It's a super flex draft. What are we doing? How do you let a quarterback fall to the 112? I'll be doing backflips if that happened.
Where are you putting him? Where are we putting him? Are we putting him in the Xavier Worthy? We're putting him before Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas.
He should at least go before Michael Penix, and I'm a big Penix fan, and I'll do this whole song and dance about we don't know how it's going to work out, and yes, he's going to get probably the summer and OTAs of reps while Kirk Cousins rehab, and maybe Kirk Cousins has a bad Achilles, and maybe Penix is starting before we know it, but with what we know now, I can't take Michael Penix over Bo Nix. Like, I just can't. Like, give me the guy who's going to actually start games, like, right out the gate. Unless you really believe in Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson, which thoughts and prayers to you if you really do believe in those guys.
Chris, biggest value for you?
I'm gonna agree with Bo Nix at the 112 in the Superflex. I think Mike hit it right on the head there. Quarterback 5. I believe he starts
six.
right away. Quarterback 6, even better. So I believe he starts right away in Denver. Walks into an early role for them at the 112. You're drafting Bo Nix. You win the championship in your fantasy league. Bo Nix falls onto your lap, which is only going to better your situation because one, you're got an abundance of QBs, and two, you're moving Bo Nix for someone else to further help your championship team move forward to back-to-back championships. So I love the Bo Nix. Maybe one of the running backs you can make a case as value there at 2.4 and 2.5.
I won't give you somebody that's as far as biggest value, but I will give you somebody to keep an eye on, and that's Jalen McMillan going in the 4.4 here, going to Tampa Bay. Keep an eye on it. I've said this multiple streams. Keep an eye on Jalen McMillan. Look, he landed in Tampa, which okay, they've got what seems to be a crowded wide receiver room, but you got to remember Chris Godwin is on on the final year of his deal. Keep an eye on Jalen McMillan, somebody that fantasy value wise is going to be a steal in a couple of years. It may take him a couple of years to get there, but getting him in the 4th round, throw him on your taxi squad and hold on to him for a year or so. What do you think of that, Mike?
I love that one. If you go back 2 years, Jalen McMillan and Roman Dunze were like 1A and 1B at Washington. And
the injuries what hurt him.
There's a lot of college people out there who probably also had McMillan above a Dunze as a prospect 2 years ago. This last year, Jalen Polk never happens if Jalen McMillan is not injured almost all season. You couldn't convince me otherwise. Like, I think Polk is nice. The NFL also really enjoyed his breakout season, but Jalen McMillan he's good. He's good, and he's much better than Trey Palmer, which I really enjoy when we got these fringe guys in the offseason when we're trying to like, hey, who's a dynasty stash? And like we throw out all these names. I love watching them just die on the NFL draft. I do. Something sick in me when I just watch people's value just go right to the shitter. It's like, well, been nice knowing you, Trey Palmer. Glad everybody paid a third for you.
Yeah, the thing with you, Mike, is it's because it's tight ends in college. That's all you know, and then you're like, oh, let me throw these darts. Let me just stab everybody else in the back.
I'm salty. I'm salty from watching Iowa football every Saturday.
What do we make with Luke McCaffrey? He went in the 4th round here, drafted day 2, back end of the 3rd round, being drafted in this rookie draft behind guys that were drafted after him, well after guys that were drafted after him at day 3. Is Luke McCaffrey with Washington worth your draft capital at all, Mike?
Yeah, I've been throwing some darts at him. You can get him really cheap, as you can see here.
Yeah.
Right? You can. And don't forget, I mean, they did lose Curtis Samuel, right? So you can kind of see a scenario where Luke McCaffrey comes in. Now, it's probably not going to be as good as Curtis Samuel, and obviously it's Jaden Daniels versus Sam Howell. One of them is going to run the ball quite a bit more than the other one did. So you do have to take that into account. But I am intrigued by Luke McCaffrey, and he got draft capital that I thought was better than most people expected. Just kind of an afterthought, though.
Yeah,
even with the
absolutely.
name. You thought maybe the name would carry him a little bit farther. Not like he was a bad athlete either. He tested better than his brother did, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. I was absolutely surprised to see him go in the 3rd there. I thought Washington was going to go somewhere else. And then seeing him go that early in day 2, I was blown away. So, and then picking him here in the 4th, I think is great value.
Yeah, for this draft purposes, I would have taken him above, like, if these are my choices, right? Devontae Walker, Jacob Cowan, or Luke McCaffrey. It's McCaffrey.
Yep.
I couldn't make a case above McMillan, obviously, for the other reasons. And the Javon Baker thing I can get behind. If I'm in on Drake Maye, I'm going to be in on Javon Baker, even though the draft capital wasn't as good as McCaffrey by a few picks. But Walker and Cowing, I definitely could.
Anybody else on this board that we needed to bring up, talk about, whether it's a tight end, which I think at this point, the NFL has told us what they thought about these tight ends in this class. I think there was a couple of them that got a little bit higher draft capital than we thought, but there was a couple others that were just basically shit on by the NFL.
Another guy running back, though, I'll bring up, Rasheen Ali. Definitely if you're a college fan. Production, injured, and then major production again. Does have a few things to work on, mainly fumbles, but he's talented, he's athletic, and he's sitting behind Derrick Henry in Baltimore, where I don't think anybody's really too worried about Justice Hill. We did get a nice Keaton Mitchell few games and then tore his ACL, but that's also a guy that they could just dump in and not have to worry about ever again. Rasheen Ali, though, pretty interesting spot there, at least as a stash, so I do like him. The tight ends, though, overall for the tight ends, it's Brock Bowers. If you like Sanat, you like Jatavian Sanders, cool. The rest of them, though, like I'm pretty good on. Theo Johnson, I was high on because he's a major athlete, but the production was like just always lacking, always lacking. And Koopa, who built our warp tool, big Penn State guy, he was like that. He's going to be a great blocking tight end. Kind of like saying best ball wide receiver. Might as well just be the fucking death sentence to the guy.
Yes, it did.
Chris, I know you were pretty high on Senate.
Yeah.
Did Sanders move ahead with the landing spot into Carolina for you?
No, but I moved them much closer. Not that they were far apart as it was, but definitely moved them much closer. We saw what Canales does, runs that tight end friendly offense. He's instantly the tight end one for Carolina, so he's an athlete. We're going to see JT Sanders carve out a bit of a role on Carolina. They did address their pass catching offense. They brought in a good running back, decent offensive line. So I'm expecting Bryce Young to take the next step in year 2. But as for the rest of the tight ends, I mean, Tip Ryman in the third, I think that's a wasted pick. That's a throwaway pick. On Arizona, they got Trey McBride there. Ultimately, just comes in to be a blocking, just another lineman at that point. Then everyone else, I think, like we're talking about, is almost untouchable at this point.
One more thing I wanted to mention: the Ricky Pearsall at the 2-7. We fast forward a month and Ayuk or Debo get traded. Ricky Pearsall does not go at the 207 ever again. It goes out the window.
He moves into that late first?
Pretty easily. Moves into the late first, early second. I mean, he might jump Keon, Xavier Legette for sure, who I took there. But just because we do have that uncertainty of, like, do they actually keep all... What's he going to do with this crowded room of weapons that they have in San Francisco? But they trade one of these guys.
It is Shanahan's offense. They figure out a way to get everybody touches somehow.
Right now, he's penciling in as the 5th option in that, which makes it tough. which makes it real tough. Yeah. Real tough. Either that or Brock Purdy's going to be QB1 by the end of the year. So, yeah,
I would not hate that. I would not hate that for one.
I would
for one of them. 713 pass attempts. Not bad.
Oh, jeez.
All right, we are an hour and 20 some odd minutes into it. I greatly appreciate everybody that has joined the stream for the comments and all of that. If you have not already subscribed to Club Fantasy FFL on YouTube, please fix that ASAP. Like I said earlier, we are on the way to 1,000. Tomorrow night, we have Masterclass, our best ball show. And by the way, I am hosting that one as well. It'll be me and Stacey Perez, and we are doing Best Ball Mania. So please join us for that as well. Wednesday morning, you will see who is your caddy or who's your caddy, the Golf DFS program. Then Wednesday night, no pun intended, the flagship show that will host with Garrett Price will be the guest there. Saturday morning, Mock It Like It's Hot at 11. Dynasty After Party Sunday morning at 11. And then, of course, we will be back next week, 10 o'clock. Mike, let the good people, let the listeners know what you and South Harmon got going on and where they can find all your content in South Harmon. Where I know y'all got the Patreon and all that stuff, so let them all know.
Yeah, we got the Patreon, patreon.com/South Harmon. You can come check that out, southharmonff.com. YouTube, South Harmon Fantasy Football, come check that out. And I have been known, apparently, with this past weekend's draft stream, if I get enough vodka in me and enough super chats, I even take my shirt off on stream. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it did happen. It did happen.
How is that not out there on a short or well, it would be a really, really short, so it'd be like a flash.
I got good people, I guess. I got good people.
Chris, let them know what's going on with you.
Yeah, you can find me at FF Chris B, but make sure you follow everyone at Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy Football. They absolutely killed it at the NFL draft. Renee was on the field talking to Odunze, getting the sleeper Jordan Whittington out of Rome Odunze, who landed with the Los Angeles Rams. So just doing terrific stuff across the board. Make sure you follow everyone involved with Club Fantasy.
Yeah, Drew, you definitely need to go follow Mike. And while you're following Mike, make sure you're following South Harmon. Go ahead and follow Adam at the same time. Make sure you're following that whole group over there. And Chris, I'm glad you brought that up. Women of Fantasy absolutely killed it out there. By the way, did you know that Rome Odunze, was it Rome Odunze or was it? I think it was Rome that said he is definitely a fantasy football player.
Yes, Rome came out, man.
Yeah,
Rome came out and said I'm a fantasy football player.
Drake May too.
Drake May too. Well,
Drake May as
I
well,
think Drake May said, yes, I'm a fantasy football player, but you could kind of tell he was bullshitting through that.
Drake May needed a belt on draft night. I knew that. Man. He was struggling with the pants.
Oh, let's get the hell out of here, fellas. Look, like I always say, draft for talent, trade for need. You're not setting a lineup for a couple more months. I think we hit that point tonight. Draft for talent, trade for need. Until next week, we'll see y'all.